And now to the story dominating the national conversation in Israel and around the world. A new report saying that Iran is believed to be expanding right now its uranium enrichment activity deep inside of a mountain bunker, working toward, quote, full installation. The expanding nuclear activity estimated to be buried beneath some 265 feet of rock and soil and said to be giving Iran better protection against any Israeli or other military strikes. Joining me now to discuss it, Ambassador Dore Gold, former Israeli ambassador to the UN and foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ambassador Gold, also the author of The Rise of the Nuclear Iran. Ambassador, thank you very much for being back on the program. Your response to this news, because it was our understanding that this was something that Israel very much feared, that Iran was essentially building this underground bunker, and that it would be more expansive and deeper than the international community would understand, and thus render somewhat ineffective any preemptive strike by the Israelis.
Well, I think the Iranians are showing their cards. You know, the old Natanz enrichment site, that has, that's buried underground under about 30 feet of rock and soil. This new site at Fordow near Qom is roughly, as you said, 260 feet underground. It's in a mountain. And of course, the Iranians want to enrich uranium to the 20% level. They say it's for medical isotopes. Well, if they need enriched uranium for medical isotopes, why do they have to bury it into a mountain 200 feet deep? This looks like a preliminary move, in my personal judgment, towards what's called nuclear breakout, when a country moves away from its obligations to the International Atomic Energy Agency and tries to establish quickly a nuclear weapons capability by having weapons-grade uranium.
As a practical matter, and I'm not asking you to give up any, Israeli military secrets, but as a practical matter, based on what's been reported already publicly, does Israel have the capacity to take out such a facility 265 feet below ground?
You know, again, maybe it's because of my training as a former ambassador. I don't like to speculate on what are called operational issues. So, I really don't have a comment on that.
Don't want to speak to that. That's fine, sir. I understand that. I want to ask you about the latest reports out of Israel. Twofold. Number one, that more and more officials there are expressing their displeasure with the public statements by United States officials condemning or urging Israel not to attack Iran. That seems to be one theme that's emerging over there. They want the American generals and so on to stop criticizing it. Number two, you tell me whether there is a split coming now within the highest factions of the government about whether Israel should be about to unleash a strike against Iran, because we read reports that President Shimon Peres is going to tell Barack Obama he doesn't believe Israel should do it, and whether that gels with how Netanyahu feels, how he feels.
Well, first of all, let's be very clear. Israel, like the United States, says all options are on the table. But, the whole issue of Israel having to defend itself with force is an issue of last resort. We're hoping that these new intensified sanctions that the United States and the European Union have initiated might move Iran in a better direction, although we're frankly aware that sanctions take a long time. I mean, the sanctions that changed apartheid South Africa took 12 years. 12 years from now, Iran's going to have long-range rockets that can hit New York. So I don't think we want to wait 12 years, but we're going to give it a chance. And all that speculation is sort of going back and forth in the press. Let's focus on not having public statements by too many officials and focus on getting Iran to adhere to its international obligations.
As far as the will of the Israeli government to do it, is there a split?
Is there a
split? Is there a division at the highest levels about how to handle Iran?
Well, this story, you pointed out, there is a front-page headline in Haaretz, one of the big newspapers in Israel this morning, that President Peres has a different view than the Israeli government. He has now denied that, and he's made clear, just like Israeli ministers, just like the United States says, all options are on the table. Nothing's taken off. But first and foremost, let's get the international community to use very firm pressure on Iran, because Iran is now in violation of some 6 UN Security Council resolutions as it continues to enrich uranium, as it refused to cooperate just this week with the International Atomic Energy Agency. So unfortunately, you're going to have to ratchet up the sanctions to get Iran to move.
Yeah, and there does remain a very big question about whether even that will produce any meaningful results. Ambassador Gold, thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.